Hello, good evening. I'm Earl Gibbs, and welcome to Speaking of Everything. With me this evening is the number 3 candidate on the DP list, Mrs. Wuite. How are you doing?
Good evening. Great to be in your show again after so many years, Earl.
It's good to have you here. You're number 3. It's very high up on the list. First time?
First time on the political slate, yes, indeed. And a major step for me, as you can imagine. No stranger to the to the government affairs, as I've been in government for many, many years, varying from sector director to Secretary General of the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, and now Secretary General of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. With that said, I'm no stranger to government affairs, but it is indeed a very different position to be on a political list.
Was it difficult to make that decision?
Yes, it hasn't been a decision that I made overnight. I care for the position that I have, the ministerial responsibilities that I carry as Secretary General, and I understand that there is a need for consistency and continuity there as well. And you weigh your options and your strengths and your possibilities, and of course the needs also primarily for the country. Mm-hmm. We've seen since country status and where we moved with our new status with a parliament that we have seen as that we graded as with a low performance, mm-hmm. And therefore the need to strengthen that performance, and that requires skills, knowledge, and I believe that through the experience that I've gained over the last 18, 19 years in government, that I can contribute once more, serve the country in a different capacity, and therefore postulated myself on the list of the Democratic Party.
When you first came to St. Maarte, you was in charge of the health department, right?
Sector Healthcare Affairs, correct, as director.
It was very small at the time.
Sector Healthcare Affairs had a size of 50, 60 staff members, so relatively small, yes.
But it grew over the years that you...
Grew. Ambulance services, part of it. Preventive health has grown tremendously. And of course, the last lap of moving towards 2010 with the additional responsibilities that come with country status, that grown even beyond to 100 plus staff members. Yes, so a growing sector with new tasks that came along and have been able to execute them professionally.
I guess that was one of the few departments that made a transition to ministry very easily, right?
Yeah. It was a clear teamwork. We were very proactive, consulted actively with each other and the vital players to contribute and assist in that process. We were indeed the first sector indicating to the Executive Council that we would be ready to take over the governmental responsibilities for public health, social development and labor. And that happened indeed in April 2010, prior to the transfer in October.
So then you moved on to education. Why?
I'm a believer in upward and mobility overall. I think it's necessary to enhance productivity, to enhance performance, to provide challenges so much needed. And at a time that I concluded that I've completed approximately 14, 15 years in, of course, first healthcare, then indeed social development, including social security and labor. I also thought that there was an opportunity at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. I can recall having a lunch with a group of friends, and we were discussing and debating a variety of issues vital to our country. And a friend of mine indicated, so if there would be anything that if you would be in a leading position, what would be the most important sector to support and to strengthen? And I mentioned education. So as the opportunity occurred, I indeed transitioned and transferred to as Secretary General for the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, with enormous new amount of challenges as well.
What do you see as some of the main issues in this parliamentary year election that's scheduled for the 26th of September?
Well, everybody, of course, clearly indicated the need for stability. What we have seen over the last couple of years, especially now also in the additional challenges that we are faced with as a country, we see that we experienced an economy that can be considered close to a flatlining type of economy, which requires growth. So jobs, economic growth, social values and stability in government and also in social life in general in society, I think is in everybody's interest. What we emphasize is that more people should feel after 5-6 years the reason why we moved from an island territory to a country in which you can say where are the opportunities to ensure that everybody is uplifted and considers the future to be stronger than where we are now.
So you feel it's better under the current situation than the previous, say, Netherlands Antilles constellation for St. Maarten?
In many ways, there are. The democratic principles are strengthened. There's better influence, I believe, for citizens to be able to influence the direction of our country. So that has strengthened. At the same time, you can indeed see that we've had quite some adversity and that it came along with global and regional developments. We have had, of course, the downfall and the economic crisis. So in a phase that you know that you have to invest in so many aspects as a young country, in the build-up of institutions, in the strengthening of capacity of not only ministries but also other aspects of our society, we've had a challenging time. And can we do better? Yes, sure we can, and that is indeed the step that we have to make in the coming 5 years.
Now you are on the Democrat Party list, and have anyone asked you why that party, not the other party?
Thus far, yes, of course. Some people in my direct environment have asked. Basically, the political landscape is changing, but there, of course, have been strong political parties over the last couple of years. And it's not that I joined the Democratic Party this year. I have been a low-profile member over the last 2-3 years. So I joined that political party. Kept a low profile as it is associated with my position as Secretary General, of course. Consider that party to be strong in terms of leadership, consistent leadership, and hard work that the Democratic Party has portrayed, especially also the last years in Parliament. I must say that our party leader is enormous with her skills and her interest in stability. Besides that, the Democratic Party, of course, has a very clear manifesto and emphasizes the importance of jobs, stability, and also values. Those type of items are very appealing to me. And I believe that the team that we have put together and that the party leader and the board has put together shows a new level of energy, a new level of interest in the Democratic Party, and a new level of opportunity. So we have an enormous amount of experience and at the same time a good composition of gender equality, I must say, and also some younger generation. So I believe that to be a very interesting combination to move forward.
How would you describe some of the challenges or the issues in education today in St. Maarten?
Yes, there have been many challenges, of course. Basically, we can conclude that we invest quite some funds in education. It's at the level of 110 million. We are investing more than 6% of our GDP. So when you look at it from that perspective, we're not doing bad in comparison to many other developed countries. At the same time, we still feel indeed that we're falling behind. It is a sector where we have to invest more in especially tertiary education, higher education, and especially also the quality of tertiary education. We've seen the issues related, for instance, to vocational training, NIPA. We have our ambitions to strengthen a US University of St. Maarten. So that's where you see that education is considered to be an enormous important pillar of our economy, where we help our younger generations grow, where a strong educational sector will help with the growth and the diversification of the economy, but also with indeed job opportunities. So to my opinion, as I emphasized earlier, based on your question, education is critical. So I just emphasized higher education, vocational education. You can look at various parts of the educational sector in itself, primary education, with regards to, for instance, the enormous challenges of influx of migrant children with language issues, more and more in our FBE examinations, the challenges with secondary education altogether, and overall education and the changes it's going through globally emphasizes that we have to shift towards lifelong learning. So even adult education should get more emphasis because it will give an enormous boost to an economy that needs to strengthen altogether in a very competitive environment in the region, globally, and where we cannot be complacent anymore, as we may have been the last couple of years, to my opinion, and where we have to move forward and indeed be able to build ourselves and make sure that that resilience that we always have had will indeed be on the forefront once again. And I do believe that education has a very important role to play in that regard. For instance, education and schools can be seen as democratic institutions. To what extent do we see it and support them as such that we can build democratic principles amongst our younger generations? Because then I believe we set the right trend and a right mindset for certain things that we are experiencing now, where it comes to democratic principles, transparency, good governance, safety and security. If we build values amongst our younger generations and also make sure that their opinions are valued, then I believe that we will do better in the near future.
And as a candidate on the Democratic Party list, how you see the economy of St. Maarten and in relations to the high number of young people that are unemployed?
Just like you said, we have, 25, 26, 27% youth unemployment, which is we're not the only island with such high numbers. We're seeing it in the region, we're seeing it in Europe, we're seeing indeed challenging, increasing numbers in other countries in the Americas as well. That means that we have to be very inventive and very keen on opportunities and the talents that they are developing. I believe that the economic diversification will create opportunities for younger generations. We see an enormous amount of talent in sport, in performing arts, in the creative industries, graphic design, architecture, fashion, and that portrays possibilities for micro-entrepreneurship. So that means that even though job opportunities might be challenged with high youth unemployment, you can also diversify and look at not only look out for jobs, but also possibilities to develop small businesses. And there are great initiatives that you're seeing that are surfacing, and I believe that they can be promoted further. As I said, the creative industries, if you would start with for instance, the dance schools that are doing amazing, that develop dancers that deserve the recognition in the region and internationally. What can you then, for instance, do to not only support those dancers for professional careers, for them to return and become teachers in those dance schools, but what can you then, for instance, do to strengthen such a sector as I call them the creative industries sector, where you would then also partner, for instance, with those that studied fashion, start their own boutique, but would like to design their own clothes. How could that be tied into, for instance, a fashion line of dance outfits, so to speak? I believe that type of mentality is necessary in order to seek opportunities through economic diversification and indeed sometimes think outside of the box. That will require stimulus, either through tax incentives or otherwise supportive type of legislation, that those type of initiatives for youth are further encouraged. Of course, matters related to existing business should also be looked into, where you would see, for instance, businesses that are hesitant to seek more long-term employment because of certain type of conditions in our current labor laws, for instance. Where can we tweak that so that that can also be encouraged, or where can you, for instance, also ensure that financial and tax incentives can be created, that and that ties then back to education, that adult learning can then be promoted, so that if you employ, for instance, a youngster, that the person will not get stuck to the same position for 5 to 10 years, but could also move up and have other opportunities, either with the same business or with other businesses. If we know that our economic productivity is rather low and weak, how can that be encouraged? I believe through recruitment of younger generations within the businesses, but also ensuring that they are provided with opportunities for further learning, because that will provide a boost to businesses. And besides that, as I mentioned earlier, besides jobs in private sector or in government or public sectors, the complementary small business development. So I think that is a package that requires strong consultation with social partners, with business sectors and with the government to define the best incentives that you have to provide to make the economy grow again and strengthen.
You know, a lot of people are also, during this campaign period now, finally recognizing poverty on this island. And there are a lot of people living in very, very, very bad conditions. Have you been able to experience this on the campaign trail?
Of course, and not only during a campaign trail, but also throughout my normal social life. You meet people that are under difficult circumstances. It could be elderly, living with minimal income out of their pension, unable to have a full pension and in the sense of an AOV, or not even a complementary pension plan out of their previous employment, so only the state pension, the AOV, while we have seen, of course, increasing cost of living over the last decades. So the elderly are in difficult situations. Besides that, you also see younger generations under enormous pressure because of what we mentioned earlier, youth unemployment, a minimal wage, or not even possibilities of full-time employment. So there are various groups that are considered vulnerable in poverty circumstances that will require strengthening, because if overall we would want to move forward, we also have to make sure that no one is left behind. And the key responsibility of government is to focus and look at those groups within society of which we know that they require the support of government, because once everybody can improve their wealth and their income, society in its entirety will do better.
You mentioned earlier about taxes. Do you have any tax incentives in mind that will boost the economy?
Of course, almost like full circle, I would say, if I would look back to education, the Democratic Party have their manifesto and would like to indeed further explore and consult about a variety of, whether it's tax deductibles, could be related to investments that businesses make that can be honored through tax deductions, or sin taxes, a combination of sin taxes related to tobacco, alcohol use, and how those sin taxes can then, for instance, also be applied.
But this has been met with a lot of resistance over the years. There's been a lot of resistance to that kind of tax in St. Maarten.
Yes, it is relevant, however, to always look at the details of those type of plans and have active consultation. And sometimes it has to go in phases, and you give and you take. Consultation is necessary and is critical. At the same time, we have to emphasize that you have to look at tweaking your current financial and tax system and see where there are possibilities to make those investments necessary. Of course, the Democratic Party also emphasized the review and the required consultation related to indirect tax systems and how that would improve indeed income and revenue necessary to make critical investments. So overall, that is not a decision that we're going to make overnight. That will require definitely discussions in broad coalitions, in broad consultations with a variety of stakeholders. However, at the same time, everybody agrees that continuing as is not an option. Change has to happen, and that requires an X amount of actions in various aspects, including finances and taxes.
What do you think about the issue of housing? Because a lot of young people are very, very concerned about that.
In my day-to-day responsibility in government, we have discussed the so-called phenomena of brain drain and brain gain. We even initiated, of course, and executed a project related to possibilities for young people to come back. We've spoken with a variety of young people that are in advanced years with their studies and are considering to return, or we have seen young people that recently have returned and they're all struggling with indeed housing. So it's not only social housing for low-income families, which is a concern because what is being offered is very limited, but it's also related to indeed housing possibilities for young professionals, which seem to be in concern because of the prices to purchase land, the pretty risk-averting situation related to possibilities to receive a mortgage. So it is a real issue, and if we indeed want to do something about the phenomena, as I dubbed as brain drain or brain gain, then housing is vital to consider and to look at broadening the options that we have seen thus far.
And it's also very difficult. People complain about interest rates, but still, when I look back at, say, 1991, when I built my first home, I was paying 13% interest rate.
Yeah.
Today it's 7-8%, and still it's difficult for young people.
Yeah, because of the need to have your own contribution and your own investment of sometimes 15, 20, 25%.
All right. So we're almost out of time, but what are the other issues or concerns that you have as a candidate?
Overall, it is governance and good governance and matters related to stability and transparency, so that people understand what is happening, where the discussions are, where the issues are. I believe that there is still a lack of information and a lack of involvement of everyone that have a very vital role within this society. I believe that it's something that needs to change, and that is not going to change overnight. I believe, seeing my involvement in government over the last 15, 20 years, I've seen changes and improvements, but much more is necessary. Once you listen to the critical voice of younger generations, they really see, they have distrust in government, in political parties, and therefore that erodes our possibilities for the future. So there needs to be some fundamental changes, and that is also part of the reason why I wanted to join the political debates and be a political candidate for parliamentary elections, because overall I do believe that my track record, my experience can have a supportive role to fight those phenomena that I just mentioned.
Now, we have just about 20 seconds remaining, so anything else you want to add in closing?
Most of all, I would like to thank you, Oral, for the opportunity for having me in your program. And of course, what is vital to the listeners and the viewers is that we are able to come out strong on September 26th, vote, even though you have your concerns, never leave your vote go in vain. And as you know, I'm political candidate number 3 on the slate of the Democratic Party. Come out and vote.
All right, thank you for coming out, and again, wish you much success.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it for now. See you next time right here on Speaking of Everything. Until then, good night, take care, bye.